So we're jumping in here with a special Patreon episode. Today, we're going to do a little critical media analysis. What do you say about that, Bo?
That sounds pretty good to me.
Have you watched much Scooby-Doo in your life?
Yeah, I watched a little Scooby-Doo, growing up, and then I watched a little Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard, and that lasted for about 10 minutes, and then I had to shut that off, but sure.
Did you watch, you just watch the first one, not the second, not the sequel?
Yeah, unfortunately, that the first one was, I felt like I was satisfied. After that, have you seen all the early 2000s Scooby-Doos?
I've seen most Scooby-Doos. I kind of fell off recently with the most recent releases, the Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. I believe that that largely came out when I was in college, so I kind of missed a lot of that. I did watch the first season or two of that. That was an interesting adaptation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I've seen most of the movies. I know there's a movie in the head. Well, there's two different, totally unrelated, well, tangentially related Scooby-Doo things in the news now.
Yeah.
Pertaining to Velma. Velma is now officially gay, which is cool. There's also a new Velma standalone series in which they are now saying that Scooby-Doo will not be a part of. Gotta say, I'm not into that.
Yeah, that I don't know. I think that bums out a lot of the audience, right? I mean, I don't know. It's a funny business, right? The animated film. I'm just glad it's animated. Okay, 'cause here's what I'll say. It's funny, the animated moving to live action. We've seen a lot of that hasn't translated, i.e., the Super Mario Brothers movie, and I'm using that as an example because
well, people are excited about the new animated one.
The new animated one, there's some excitement. I actually just watched the trailer for that. But, thinking about the live action movie starring the great Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo.
Yeah, just brilliant stuff there.
But not to forget the amazing appearance by the legendary Dennis Hopper as King Koopa.
Well, I mean, just circling back to the new Scooby-Doo, it seems like I guess the Velma series, that is. Yeah. It seems like almost embarrassing that the writing team would come out and say that they're unable to modernize Scooby-Doo for more, with more adult themes. That seems like admitting defeat a year before the show's even out, saying you're unable to write a character that's funny and contemporary. Seems like a thing that I probably wouldn't say if I was a writer.
Yeah. Also, too, why are we really trying to mature this case-solving dog? Why? I mean, like, I'm sorry. I feel like they're really, really, really diving deep into this, and
yeah. Well, if you've watched the I believe it's the most recent adaptation series, the Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, they successfully incorporate more adult themes in that.
Sure.
And they can keep the dog. So,
yeah.
Not sure what's going on here, but we'll see next year when nobody watches that show. It's important to differentiate between, the criticism of media that is, we hate this new woke shit.
Right.
Because it's not even that. It's that you're taking a series that's based around a crime-solving talking dog and saying, let's get rid of that.
Right. Well, Scooby-Doo, a lot of history there. Did you ever watch the show Robot Chicken on
I've seen a few episodes. Seth Green is pretty cringy as a person.
Yeah, but prior to Seth Green, I don't know if you know this, but the famous Dave Coulier from Full House was doing the Scooby voice on that show. He was the OG.
Really?
He's had something of a career, huh?
Yeah, he has. I mean, I don't know if anybody can. Is it Frank Welker? Is that the original Scooby-Doo voice? That dude's had a career. I don't know how familiar you are with the filmography of Frank Welker.
No, I'm not.
Just an incredible voice actor there.
Really?
He's done everything from The Lion King to Scooby-Doo. Just quite a career there.
Oh my God! Did you know that Casey Kasem was the original voice of Shaggy?
Absolutely. Here's a little shout out to my mother, who used to make us listen to Casey Kasem's America's Top 40 every week.
Oh my God!
Like growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, I maybe make is a little extreme.
She just had it on.
It was always on in the car. Yeah, America's Top 40 with Casey Kasem. It was always the repeats. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, no. Even when I was growing up, it was always reruns of stuff that already happened. Even in the '90s, I never felt like I heard Casey Kasem live ever in my life.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still remember the words of wisdom Casey Kasem would expel. Like when Poison had a #1 song in 1984 or whatever, on one of the repeats.
Right.
Casey Kasem did tell us all, if we're ever lost in the woods, not to drink water from a lifeless, clear stream because it's probably got poison in it.
Dude, you know what's baller about Casey Kasem is that he was literally this, Lebanese guy. Like he grew up in a household where they only spoke Arabic, but they did not allow him or any of his siblings to speak Arabic because obviously they wanted their children to be Americanized. But I mean, he went out there as a foreign man and just took over the radio world. I mean, I don't even think people knew that he was, and I mean, it's pretty cool when you think about it, because that was not. I mean, at the time he was doing this, people had issues with black people being on TV and on radio.
Yeah. And here's
that.
An Arabic person from Detroit.
Exactly. And
he leveraged that not just for the American Top 40, but more related to what we're talking about again today, was the voice of Shaggy for 50 years.
Yeah,
pretty close to him.
And up and through the '90s for sure.
Yeah, up until 2009.
So you're keeping up with the Scooby world.
But today I want to talk about the first season of Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Originally aired in 1969.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some thoughts about it.
Oh, all right.
I've got some thoughts about things.
Yeah.
One thing that we've probably discussed maybe once or twice is a guy named Karl Marx.
Karl Marx. We've discussed him a couple times. Sure.
Yeah. So there's some ideas in the works of Karl Marx that pretty evident in that first season of Scooby-Doo.
Like, are you saying like undertones, or are you saying that this is pretty obvious to a Marxist?
I think that a lot of people are able to kind of turn off that critical mind when they're watching mindless cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you look a little deeper, it's pretty surface level critique of policing in the United States and all across capitalist countries. That really reinforces the Marxist idea of how the state exists as an institution to protect the power of the ruling class.
This is pretty wild here. As a just innocent bystander, you're looking at a nonviolent Saturday morning program, right? And you're thinking, hey, this is good, clean fun.
Yeah,
maybe it is, but
clean fun if you're the bourgeoisie.
All right.
So, I haven't probably fleshed this out as much as a person should when they're going to make such a. It's actually not that bold of a claim, but I don't know how much Marxism have you read, Bo?
Yeah, I've read my fair share of Marxism. I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I understand the basic concepts of Marxism. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like within the superstructure of society, basically how society's relation to culture, political power structures, media, the state,
right,
religion, in that superstructure, the state exists fully as an institution of the ruling class used to secure its rule and maintain its kind of relation to production and exploitation.
Sure.
The ruling class, they own the means of production. Pretty freshman level, sophomoric ideas.
Right.
But taking that idea, right, of the fact that the state and all of the arms of the state are there to maintain that power. One of the arms of the state obviously is the police, and we can see throughout that first season of Scooby-Doo. It's a pretty surface level critique of that system. The police in the world of Scooby-Doo, as they do in our world, exist fully to maintain that power of the bourgeoisie and the petty bourgeoisie.
Huh. All right.
Yeah, you want to dive into some examples here?
Yeah, let's dive into these examples. So
okay, so I don't want to get too I just want to hedge my bets here.
Sure.
I just want to say that it's not super easy as a grown ass adult to watch all of Scooby-Doo in a short amount of time. So this critique is actually based on only the first 12 episodes.
Jesus, how many episodes are in that first season, man?
More than 12.
Oh God. Grief.
Yeah, so essentially, the show is super formulaic, right? The gang stumbles upon some crime happening, figure out who the bad guy is, and then the police come for mop-up duty.
The mystery machine.
That is the van. The van
that they cruise around in, yeah.
Yeah. So they stumble upon this crime that's happening. Usually it's actually not that serious of a crime. It's pretty mundane.
Yeah.
But you will see that every crime in this show, almost, there's one exception that really stood out to me. But we'll get to that. But in that first season, at least, every crime is one that is something that is perpetrated against the bourgeoisie or directly related to the petty bourgeoisie. And I should probably break down what those are for our casual Marxist listeners.
Definitely.
The bourgeoisie are the ruling class, basically the people that control the means of production. Yeah. Petty bourgeoisie are typically what we would consider upper class or upper middle class, the folks in more respectable non-labor jobs, professors, doctors, things like that.
Yeah.
So almost without question, every single crime in the show is something that is trying to take power away from, the ruling class, and they're there to maintain order, maintain the power of the rich, or they're very not serious crimes that are just happening between the bourgeoisie. For example, There's an episode, season 1. Let me get the number here. Season 1, episode 5.
Okay.
Is a good example of the totally not important crimes that are just there to either boost the notoriety of other petty bourgeoisie members or the whole episode, right? Happens exclusively in an upper class neighborhood, in an upper class town, in which a person whose entire job is owning and training prize dogs, show dogs.
Yeah.
And that that man who is pretty overtly named Buck Masters. Is kidnapping dogs that are going to compete against his dog for what is a pretty nominal fee, like a nominal prize in a dog show. And like, it's pretty obvious that the middle class and poor people do not compete in dog shows. There's there's cultural capital that comes with like social capital that comes with winning a dog show.
Yeah,
but it is purely a status symbol of the upper class.
Of course, it's like horse racing. Exactly.
So, again, this is 1968, but 1969, probably 68 when this was written. But season 1, episode 5, kidnapped prize dogs, to compete in a dog show to win $500.
It's big money in 1968.
It's not. No, it's like. I believe that it's less than $5,000 in 2022 money. Like, for people with prize dogs, that is nothing. So, one prize dog owner is kidnapping competitors so that his dog can win.
That's pretty wild.
That's not a real crime. And that's not a crime that impacts people. But it's a crime that the police think are important enough and the gang thinks is important enough that they have to, go out of their way to solve it.
Can I ask you in this episode?
Yeah.
I just want to point out that the Mystery Machine is a piece of shit during this whole series.
No.
I thought that this van, it seemed like this van was always breaking down.
Not so far that I've seen. It's actually full of phenomenal technology. They have like tracking devices that they can implant and track via computers in the back of this van. In 1969, right? Those things don't exist. They have radar trackers that they can affix to things they're trying to like trace.
Essentially, it's a Batmobile.
Yeah.
But
and keep in mind they're children, and they've got this technology that doesn't exist in the real world. Or at least did not.
They're meddling.
It wasn't
kids.
accessible at the time. Exactly. Right. And again, right. So just one episode later, they go to visit their friends at the Weatherby estate.
Mm.
They have, for some reason, incredibly wealthy friends who own this phenomenal estate with some untold fortune. And that's the crux of the episode. Somebody's trying to steal the Weatherby fortune. Like, and it's another wealthy person.
Right.
I believe it's somebody in the family.
Someone is trying to take down the ruling class.
Right, and they are there with the help of the police to, apprehend this grifter, as they call him.
It's a good. I like that. That was a classic label from that time.
Yeah. But I mean, they're trying to steal this old money, and like classically, right? Old money is
sure.
something that's never produced ethically,
right?
And it's always there to, it only still exists because of the state.
Right. Exactly. So, bringing them down to this level, the idea, right, and Marxism is to so that no social classes ever have conflict. There's no government anymore, right?
Well, I mean, in Marxism, there's always class struggle, right? There's
sure.
always tension between the ruling class and proletariat, but power only transitions. Largely, there are some exceptions, but in classic Marxist theory, power only transitions and transfers by like pretty radical social and political upheaval.
Mm-hmm.
So like, this is not a crime of power transition, so to speak. It's not a social structural change, right?
Yeah.
It's just trying to steal some money from someone. But at the same time, right, the gang and the police are there purely to maintain that power and order.
Yeah.
Which is a little different than what we see in a lot of other crime shows, right?
Very.
Obviously, a lot of crime across television, involves the wealthy, but it's not exclusively
right
about the wealthy.
Yeah.
And it is in this show. And I think that's where the real cultural
connection
comes in.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm following. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's really only one episode that really stood out to me as one that isn't concerned with, I mean, I guess directly concerned with maintaining power, although arguably it is. So in season 1, episode 8, it's about a robot that was designed by the caretakers of a amusement park to speed up the efficiency of the workers there.
Okay, that's pretty obvious. Okay,
right.
That's pretty obvious right there.
It is to an extent, right? But it's worth noting that this robot is designed by a proletariat, right? The caretaker of this amusement park, not the owner, not the managerial state. Like a caretaker has built a super fast robot to make working more efficient.
Yeah.
And obviously that goes awry, right? Because anything that benefits and allows more leisure time or whatever to the lower classes, it allows them to get one step closer, step out of that role as the lower class. So, caretaker builds this robot, it goes haywire, and the wife of the caretaker destroys it. Basically saying, direct quote here, kids need people, not robots.
Very nice.
Yeah. And again, like I said, it's the caretakers, it's not the owners.
Sure.
So the caretakers here, in their proletariat position, are trying to do something that might make their lives a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And probably would make the owners, more money, but it doesn't work because that would get them a little too far advanced, and the kind of Luddite undertones there, only really apply when it comes to the working class, right?
Right.
The gang can have these new age trackers and all of this technology, but a caretaker for an amusement park wants to make the process of buying and selling goods more efficient. Hell no.
Hell no.
Can't
do that.
And that episode was very strange because it's the only one that's not like explicitly, protecting the interest of the upper class.
Yeah. The one thing that obviously there's, I don't know, the first season, and I may be getting episodes mixed up, but there's a lot of run-ins with like Yetis and ghosts and stuff.
Well, I mean, so there are always, random
monsters.
Monster of the week type things, but they're always people, either the upper class trying to step outside of their role in the upper class and expand it in an unnatural way, which you can't do when it's against, if that requires stealing from other people in your same class position, like, we can't have that.
Yeah. There's an episode where they're obviously having this monster or ghost issue, and when they're able to finally apprehend the ghost, they find out that it's a unsuspecting authority figure trying to wreak havoc or cover up some sort of scam. And it always some way gets tied back to some sort of just random local or somebody higher up who's up to no good.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the intentional critique there, right?
Yeah.
Is that almost all of this crime that exists is not something that's actually happening across the class spectrum. It's always the bourgeoisie or the petty bourgeoisie trying to adjust their lot in life, increase their wealth, and it's always pretty transparent. Even when the crime are things that are being committed against the upper class, it's never a class struggle related, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in season 1, episode 10, the circus is being haunted by a clown ghost, and the animated stand-in for Barnum from the Barnum and Bailey circus. The circus leader, the clear owner of the means of production. And if you think about it even more, it's even when you think of a circus, it's almost akin to true ownership of actual people, right?
Right.
The people that are performing in circuses are not they're not producing anything other than what their own bodies can do.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
it's another layer. But they're called upon by the actual leader of the circus, the dude who owns all of these humans, to investigate the clown ghost that's haunting them. And it turns out that while this was not an example of someone in the upper class trying to expand their wealth, or someone trying to move from the petty bourgeoisie to the bourgeoisie, it's just a former circus employee who was caught stealing and now is trying to get payback after he went to prison. So it's not even about stealing money. It's about just some random notion of payback.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like the real material crimes are always perpetrated by the upper class.
Yeah. That's that would be a direct connection. I want to be able to follow up with this because now you said you've seen all the live action the films.
Yeah.
Do they make these same iterations in these films?
I don't actually have a lot of recollection of them. I probably not watched them in a number of years. I do remember that from what I recall of a lot more of the later animated series, and even season 2 of this, they kind of move away from this to more spectacular crimes, more elaborate monsters, especially in the the numerous like TV movie adaptations.
Yeah. What's funny about the Scooby-Doo series is that during the 60s, there was a lot of backlash from parents and all these different groups that had protested superhero-based shows in the 60s, because there's quite a bit of them, right? We had the Batmans, we had the Green Hornet, we had I think this was a little after the George Reeves Superman show. But there was quite a few of these superhero-based programs, and CBS really got a lot of heat for this. And Scooby-Doo was a direct answer to that protest, right? And all that backlash, because they wanted to create something that was, not as violent, and was animated, so it was fun, right? It was goofy. It was just it was supposed to be some silly show where a bunch of kids ran around in a van and the dog and all this stuff. But as you look deeper into it, now there's all these possibly political angles, right?
Yeah. Well, and you can see, right, none of this crime is violent crime.
Right, exactly.
It's all, and it's also another idea here that hasn't always existed, at least not on the forefront like it is today, about the idea of property crime. Like, that's not a real thing if you think about it, right? You can't, crime requires a victim. Property cannot be a victim of crime,
right,
so to speak. So it's something that arguably is also calling into question these modern notions of what crime can be.
Sure.
And through that Marxist lens, right? There's direct questions about why this has developed, and clearly it's the more distractions we have, the easier it is for the state to maintain this power structure. But property crime doesn't exist. Like you can't commit a crime against a window,
a
so
building.
To speak.
Yeah,
exactly. It's a rather new concept, and it's something that's kind of explored in this show, and the fact that there's no violent crime. It's all property related. I mean, even down jumping back to the kidnapped prize dogs, right? The victims are dogs,
right? The victims are just a bunch of canines.
Yeah, exactly. That are not even held poorly. Like they're treated well. They're just I mean, totally unrelated to the the role of the state. But that episode specifically was also pretty pretty wild to look back at.
Yeah.
Buckmaster is dressed up as I guess he didn't dress up. He dressed up as a Native American witch doctor.
Oh,
but also projected a ghost of Geronimo, kind of overlapping to. I mean, and you can the episode is definitely supposed to take place like in the Southwest, and I think they even make mention to like the Pueblo tribe.
Really?
So we're like really overlapping three very culturally distinct.
Yes.
Indigenous peoples from different parts of the country.
Right.
All wrapped up into one kind of very odd portrayal of kidnapping dogs.
That's
for $500.
For $500, yeah. I feel like I'm gonna have to go back and watch some Scooby-Doo.
Well, I mean, even just jumping back into that episode, right? You'd have to think that acquiring an entire ancient Pueblo village, building facilities to hold and care for all of these kidnapped dogs, creating the technology to accurately project, and create the sound, engineering required to project the image of a galloping Geronimo on a horse with a hatchet screaming at these kids.
Yeah.
Would cost so much more than the prize money that was being given here. And it's not like it was a national dog show. It was just in this town.
Right.
And it was a man that lived in this town to win the local dog show. So it really reinforces this idea of, just how important social status is.
Yeah.
And that all of these resources could be expended by not just, Mystery Incorporated, the gang, but the police too, just for these dogs. Definitely far more costly in that regard too, than whatever the prize money was.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, to run this down, if you rewatch some early Scooby-Doo episodes, we haven't gotten into further seasons, but
this Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? 1969. This is sort of a socioeconomic analysis, right?
Well, I mean, it is clearly a portrayal of a critique of the state,
right.
Existing to maintain, current power structures as outlined by Karl Marx.
Definitely. Not as deep as a movie like The Sandlot.
Was that a deep movie?
That was on the other day, and I couldn't even turn it on because do you remember the first time we met? We met in person, and we were talking about sports movies, and I'll never forget. Like I can't even watch it because of you anymore, because this is a true story. We were talking about sports movies that were popular, but kind of dissecting whether they were good or not. And I remember saying, "Oh, you don't like The Sandlot?" And your reaction was, I'll never forget this. You just looked at me and you had this look on your face and you're like, it didn't age well. It did not age well.
I honestly don't remember that conversation. I know that I'm typically highly critical of Field of Dreams.
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones waxing poetic about how great it was back when baseball was segregated.
A man who in real life has stated multiple times that he fucking hates baseball. Literally, he literally hates the game of baseball and thinks it's absurd and boring. Like, look up anything about this. It's ridiculous. But I love that he played, a baseball character multiple times.
Yeah.
But literally was dressed exactly the same in both movies. Yeah. He was just a guy in suspenders walking around talking about a game he used to play. The we talked about Field of Dreams and other movies, but like this is the time for whatever reason. Like The Sandlot comes on a lot now.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those movies that's just on syndicated on some cable channel probably every day for the last 30 years.
I was watching another movie. I can't remember what it was, and the guy who played Smalls was like some fat drug addict in Boston somewhere. God, what the hell was that?
Good Will Hunting.
Oh my God! What could turn me off more is nothing turns me off more than a literal Boston crime movie. If it's a yeah. I watched
Manchester by the Sea.
That's a Boston crime movie.
I know. I think that's New Hampshire, isn't it?
I think so. Yes, I think Manchester by the Sea is New Hampshire or something, but it had an Affleck in it. So
yeah. You know who's kind of fallen off as an actress, kind of surprisingly, is Michelle Williams. You know, I forget what was she in that was like all of the rage, like probably 2008, maybe 2010.
Dawson's
Creek.
Creek.
No, she had a starring role in a movie, and was supposed to be like the next great female lead. And
she did play. She's again. They just released a Marilyn Monroe. I thought in a movie.
Yeah. 2011. Marilyn.
Yeah.
My week with Marilyn.
Yeah, she has fallen off.
Yeah, I can't remember what that was. Am I thinking of Blue Valentine? Is that what she won awards for?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah. I don't. I mean,
you know what else she was in?
She won awards.
A movie that I really wanted to like because I really enjoy Philip Seymour Hoffman. I think that he's probably one of the best actors of the last few decades.
Oh yeah. I like PSH.
I really wanted to like Synecdoche, New York.
Yeah.
I feel like that had all of the everything it needed to have to be great, but it just wasn't. It just wasn't a good movie.
Yeah, I wasn't really a big fan. I do remember she was in Shutter Island.
Yeah. Back when Leonardo DiCaprio was on his weird phase of being in psychological thrillers.
Yeah,
that was short lived, right? Because it was just that in Inception that he really.
Yeah, he was also in The Departed.
Yeah,
another Boston crime movie. Oh my God! Listen, I like Scorsese films, but there are quite a few that I don't enjoy, and I cannot stand that film.
You got to be in a really specific mindset to get into that.
First of all, like anything with Mark Wahlberg in it, I mean, it's probably not going to be at the top of my list ever at any point, or at the middle of my list. It's very difficult for me to watch him.
Yeah. I think there's a new Mark Wahlberg documentary. I know you're a big documentary fan. It popped up in my recommendations on HBO the other day. I have no idea why.
Is it the movie Father Stu, where he plays a boxer turned priest?
Doubt Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Dude, going back to Philip Seymour Hoffman, he had some. I mean, first of all, he was an amazing actor. Did you ever see him in The Master with Joaquin Phoenix, where he played essentially the Scientology? God, what the hell is that guy's name? The guy who invented Scientology.
Yeah, he wrote some good books there.
Real good stuff. But
Ron Hubbard.
Yeah,
Ron Hubbard.
Ron
Hubbard.
Not
Enron.
Enron.
Not Enron.
Ron Hubbard. That's. But yeah, I mean, I liked him in that role, but also, I mean, he was great as Truman Capote. That's.
So where do you fall on the line of Truman Capote actually being the author of
In True Blood?
No, actually being the secret author of To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, well, I mean, that close relationship, obviously, that they had. Man, I don't know. Like, yes, listen, I understand, and it's really hard to say because really, what did she? And I'm. This is a question. This is not an answer. What did she really do after that?
Well, so there is that book that was released after her death, Go Set a Watchman. I didn't read that, but I think that circling back to Marxist critiques here, To Kill a Mockingbird is something that also really does not stand up to much scrutiny. Yeah. It's a pretty weak book, and I think that if you think about it, just beyond surface level, not great characters there. Even the ones that are kind of stood up as
in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You mean Boo Radley? Boo Radley fan?
No, I think even I think that even under just a little bit of scrutiny, even like Atticus is not a great dude.
No,
but I did want to circle back. Do we want to have any closing Scooby Doo thoughts?
I know that I need to go back and really look into this because I will say, basically, not only are you trying to make some connections, obviously to Marxism, but also, Scooby Doo could essentially be the first animated show with really, deeper stories, right?
Yeah.
Now you look at like adult cartoons, right? We can go back. When I was growing up, it was like Ren and Stimpy. If you go back and watch that show, it's not just a dog and a cat. Like there's just doing stupid crap, right? It's just like there's a lot of weird stuff happening there. And then you moved on to the SpongeBob stuff, and
where there are things written in that adults will understand, but the kids won't.
Exactly.
And I don't actually think that the writers of Scooby Doo, Where Are You, 1969, first season, probably wrote this as a critique of Marxist superstructure and how the police maintain state control over things.
You never know because think about the time though. This was a weird time in the in the country. Well,
and it's important to note too that at least at the top of my head, I'm not saying that the top of my head is somehow a complete record of everything I've ever witnessed and watched.
Yeah.
But I can't think of any other shows, at least immediately, in which a crime show anyway, in which every crime exclusively revolves around this maintenance of power.
Yeah. Like I said, I want you to continue to watching the first season and continue watching it so we can follow up and just see if this is a continuing sort of theme.
And I kind of browsed just the episode titles and what I remembered from season 2, and I don't believe that it does explicitly continue into season 2. I could be wrong. I'll go back and watch.
Yeah.
But there's some pretty interesting things, especially as you get later into that season 1, right? Season 1, episode 11. There's a castle that is imported brick by brick from Transylvania into the United States and rebuilt. If that is not if that's not just explicitly what the bourgeoisie is, right? And they exist solely to protect the jewels that are woven into tapestries and hanging in this random castle. Right?
Yeah.
I don't even think that the owner of the castle exists in the episode. It is just this status symbol that someone is trying to rob.
Right.
And they go out of their way to make sure that they can't steal these jewels from a castle that somebody imported. God. And even just a few episodes earlier, right, there's the whole episode surrounds the petty bourgeoisie, right? It's a dude who runs a theater and is a puppet master. but you got to think,
Mr. Rogers,
being a guy that manufactures and puts on productions with plays is kind of definitionally what you kind of consider the petty bourgeoisie, right?
Definitely.
But he's got to go to jail, right? Because he's been counterfeiting money,
right?
And if anything, not only does the state exist to maintain this power structure, but like, this episode is a direct, what am I trying to say here? An episode in which the crime is something that directly threatens the state and their control. If somebody else has access to produce money, that kind of circumvents the entire structure, right? So they've got to take this counterfeiter out.
Absolutely.
And it's worth noting too, like, where does the gang come from? I'd like to know some more of their original backstory. I know that their backstory has been explained in later adaptations of Scooby-Doo, but the original series doesn't really get too much into their backstory.
Yeah.
But I mean, we see in one episode, Daphne's uncle is like a Hollywood producer, and he's a director and producer, and that's a time in which Hollywood is really controlled by just like 3 studios, I think.
Yeah.
So like we're talking like the upper echelon.
Upper echelon, right there. Now.
Yeah. So they've got to protect one of his movies from harm from one of the stars trying to.
Oh my God.
Trying to make more money.
That's wild.
But like that's her uncle who is in tight with the upper echelon of old Hollywood money.
Right.
And they've got all of this money, obviously, because they're traveling around the country to their wealthy friends' estates with their newfangled tracking technology and whatnot. And it's just
funding this, right?
Well, exactly, right. They're clearly the bourgeoisie too, right?
Yeah.
And, it's just another layer, right? They're trying to protect their own status, right? Their own power. They're not doing this for money. They don't get paid for any of this.
Right.
Right. The cops thank them for their hard work every time.
This is just their side hustle.
They are the one of the arms of power of the state.
Right. Exactly. Like, what are you doing to just in your everyday life? How do you have the time to just do this for free with with all your specialized equipment? And again, it'd be weird to jump into the backstories of these.
Well, and later kids. Series try to do that.
Jesus.
But and to each their own, right? Every later director has and writer has the freedom to explore what they want, how they want, except for when you're trying to get rid of Scooby-Doo. But again, that's a different story. But they don't get too deep into it in that first season. But even there's another episode. I gotta pull this up just to make sure I want to see the relation to this character. So give me one sec here.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that they had a relation to this character, but in another episode, again, they visit a university museum, and they've got to protect the ancient Egyptian fortune that the Department of Archaeology has looted from Egypt and taken back to the United States to display for all to look at. And somebody tries to steal the diamond, which is just so explicitly what the state does.
Right.
They can say that
we claim these goods.
We just went to Egypt and liberated this mummy and its incredibly valuable diamond, but fuck this guy who's trying to take it for himself.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You mentioned Philip Seymour Hoffman earlier. What's your favorite?
Yeah.
What's your favorite Philip Seymour Hoffman movie?
That's a good question. I did like Doubt. I thought that for as little as he actually, was in that movie, he did have a phenomenal performance.
I thought you were going to say Patch Adams.
Well, that was a pretty good one too.
It was not at all. The one thing about him is just his you know, his ability to, you know, play so many different characters.
Yeah, because he really did.
He really had range, a lot of range.
Yeah, because he was exclusively basically a kind of comic actor earlier in his career.
Right.
You know, supporting comedy roles. Along came Polly, Twister.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He was, you know, he was part of the crew in Twister. You know, he was kind of this dopey, like, hell, you know, this guy.
Yeah. I mean, he was in The Big Lebowski.
Yeah. Well, I think it was really, honestly, for me, like his character in Boogie Nights was really just like, okay, forget the movie for a second. He was a very troubled human who was very lonely, and that's the only Mark Wahlberg film that I think.
Have you seen Before the Devil Knows You're Dead? I think that's my favorite Philip Seymour Hoffman movie.
Really,
and I don't exactly remember where it takes place.
It sounds familiar, but I'm trying to think.
I want to make sure that it's not a crime movie set in Boston. I don't think it's Boston, but it is a crime movie with Ethan Hawke too, Marissa Tomei. It's a good one. It's a movie that I think kind of flies under the radar a lot.
Yeah,
it's definitely my favorite Philip.
Because it's a crime thriller.
Yeah. I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to spoil it for you.
Yeah, well, you like Ethan Hawke?
Does anybody? Does Ethan Hawke like Ethan Hawke?
He's kind of a crab ass.
You know which movie I think might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen?
Before Sunset?
No. I mean, I truly dislike Richard Linklater. But, no, what was his... Boyhood?
Boyhood.
God, that movie sucked. Like, that movie sucked so much. It's one of those movies in which everybody said, oh, this is revolutionary. They did something new. Yeah. But they never stopped to ask, like, why?
Right, exactly.
Why did they do this? Do you think that you can film a movie one day every year for 2 decades and it's going to end up well?
Right.
No, it had no good story. It was poorly written. It just did something novel, and then everybody said that it was good, and nobody had the courage to say, hey, maybe it's not good. Maybe we should disagree with this unanimous praise.
Yeah. I'm not a big Richard Linklater fan either. I think the best film that he did was School of Rock.
That's a good one. I do agree with you there.
Yeah, I think that's literally the only film that I can. I mean, listen, when I was younger, the Dazed and Confused thing was I thought was interesting, and then as you get older, I think that's a film that just
doesn't age well,
and it's actually there's a lot of like not good shit in that film that shouldn't be exploited. But so that's my feeling on that. And we're probably gonna get. I know everyone out there's listening. Go, oh come on, man. You know, think of the times. I'm not trying to compare it to today or anything. I'm just saying.
Well, that was bad then too. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's just like
It's one of those things where he's made so many. Right, he's directed, multiple critically acclaimed movies about growing up and like what it means to be a kid, and he fundamentally doesn't understand it. Yeah, and he needs to just stop.
You know what film I thought was fucking stupid? A Scanner Darkly. Jesus Christ! It tried to be a smart film. I don't know if you saw that or not, but it's about the war on drugs and all this. I don't know. It's just a fucking stupid movie.
Yeah, he was on one in 2006, right? Fast Food Nation was another one that was like, what are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing, man?
Yeah. He's also dabbled on the animated side too.
Well, is it really? It's not. I mean, it's the animation that we can do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about Waking Life.
Yeah.
There's another movie in which he like thought that he was saying something really brilliant, but it's just Ethan Hawke saying dumb shit. And it's all. I mean, like I don't want to take away from it because I think it is interesting. It was an interesting production, right? Because it was multiple animators worked on it, but it was all rotoscoped, right? Yeah. So it was all filmed and then, animated over the actual film images.
Yeah.
And it is interesting that it was different artists, so that there were different styles that popped through at different times in that movie. But like, it's the kind of movie that you pay $6 for because you can film it on any camera, and you can get any struggling art student to like color over the film.
Yeah.
It just didn't do it for me. I don't know. Maybe you liked it.
Did you ever watch his critically acclaimed sports film, Everybody Wants Some, about a 1980s college baseball?
I thought you were going to talk about his remake of Bad News Bears.
Oh, is he the one who... Oh, my God. Oh, Jesus. I had no idea that was him.
Yeah.
That was a fucking terrible movie.
Yeah, most of the things that he does.
Why did that movie need to get remade?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's just
did you ever watch? The why am I drawing blanks here? The Jack Black movie Bernie.
Yes. The one where there's the old woman and he hides the old woman in the
he's
garage.
Like he's a small town
small town Texas
mortician.
Yes. Yep.
And it's filmed as like a mockumentary.
Yeah.
Movie. That was interesting. It was decent.
That was decent. That was when Matthew McConaughey started his. I'm really terrible at big movies, so I want to be less terrible. So let me go to the indie world. And he did movies like Bernie, and I don't know if you ever saw The Paperboy.
I didn't. Mud was good. I liked Mud.
Yeah, Mud was good. Paperboy, which was actually until one of your personal favorites, John Cusack, makes an appearance as a literal serial killer in the film. It was actually fairly an enjoyable story. It's a very dark film. But he had some decent films, and it wasn't because he was not the leading man in any of these. That's I think that's really where he is most successful. There's a movie that just came out recently. It's called The Gentleman, and I keep seeing it pop up on Netflix and all these things. But I see him in clips and I hear his voice and I'm like, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I don't even know. I think I saw Interstellar, but I think the last thing that I saw him in was probably True Detective. And that was I don't know. That was a phenomenal show.
Okay, right? So True Detective season 1 is my all-time favorite show.
Absolutely,
of all time.
The following seasons don't really do it for me.
No,
season 2 kind of sucked. I did watch, I believe, season 3, and that was all right. It was better than season 2.
One of my favorite actors, I would say top 3 actors right now, is Mahershala Ali, and I think he did an outstanding job. But the storyline was still, not that great. Season 2 was a lot of miscast actors, and the story was just poor.
It's hard to follow up such a strong story, one that's been,
oh my gosh,
you can tell. I mean, like in a lot of TV shows, specifically, you can tell the ideas that have been worked for years, like the kind of thing that's been in the back of somebody's head for a long time. Like even if you watch like the first season of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, you can tell that those were ideas that they had for years.
Oh, absolutely.
They had played around with. And the same with True Detective, right? That first season was something that you could tell that he had worked on, at least thought about for a very long time.
Yeah.
And when you have to adjust from spending years on something to, no, you've got a deadline and you've got to put this out, in 6 months, your storyline's going to suffer unless you're just one of the very few very few writers that are just, phenomenal.
Well, that too. And, you make, obviously, with all this pressure, when you sign up for, these sequels and these additional seasons, all these personnel changes happen. And with True Detective, the creator was the director all of the first season. Yeah, and then that changed. Oh, well, actually, it was the same director. I think it was, God, what is his name? Cary Fukunaga, I think it is, the director. He had handled, I think, all the direction on the first season. And on the second season, they had a different director for each.
For like every episode.
And it was
I know that, I remember that the creator there, what's his name? Nick.
Yeah. Nick Palazzo, yes. And yeah,
he directed a couple too, and I think that that's a hard thing. When
it is,
you
and that's
transition from
common in shows, right? I mean, where we see all these different series on television, and they have multiple directors for different episodes, but
well, they're also not as narrative driven, right? It's one thing to switch out directors for your Law and Order that's gonna there's no narrative drive there, or like your Monster of the Week episode of whatever show, right?
Right.
Your X-Files. Like, there is no narrative drive, so it doesn't really matter. Especially the shows that have been on a long time. Like, after 3 or 4 seasons, you know what a show is supposed to look like. So there's no real director creativity that can go on there.
Okay, so a favorite television series of all time. Like I said, I think for me it's True Detective season 1, and crazy enough, the show Fargo season 2, I think is some of the best television that I had seen. What for you? Like, what do you think is some of the best TV series that you've watched and you still reflect on?
I would say that definitely that first season of True Detective is great.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that I honestly think that the first season of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is just great.
Yeah.
It's 2005, and they were really pushing the envelope there with some pretty wild storylines. Storylines that I could just tell you what the episode is about in one sentence, and you'll think it's funny. You know?
Right, exactly. Do you think that show? I feel like that show is going to end up like The Simpsons. Like that show is going to be on the air for, 20 years.
Yeah. So I had recently watched I recently watched, I think it might have come out in 2020, 2021, whatever the last season was.
Yeah.
I kind of watched the first few episodes of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell that they're attempting to adjust the characters a little bit.
Sure.
Like the always, I mean, like they've stated, right, that the goal is always to, have the characters be the worst people you could imagine.
Sure.
But at the same time, I think that they've done a very solid job of staying with the times, right? A lot of comedy, and specifically, right? They don't adjust with how the American people adjust, right?
Right.
And they've done a solid job of kind of reflecting that change.
Yeah.
Kind of in comparison to like another show that I think people have considered as pushing the envelope and has been long running in, like South Park. Right. They've done a not great job of reflecting kind of cultural changes, ideological changes. While you can see that, at least in It's Always Sunny, they've worked hard to kind of stay with the times.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's a hell of a group together, and there's just you get groups of people together, and sometimes it just gels and it works so well, and obviously the ideology behind that is so good. I mean, you've got a great husband and wife team obviously working on that. But just everyone. Yeah, it's I'll tell you what I saw recently, and I had held off watching it for a long time, but I watched this movie called The Power of the Dog. Have you heard about this film?
Yeah.
Jane Campion. Yeah, she won. Obviously, the movie won a lot of awards, but it's it's like a Western psychological film, right? And so usually those two don't play hand in hand. It sounds strange, but this movie I thought was outstanding. And I'm not going to give too much away, but we said husband and wife, Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst, play a couple in this film. But Benedict Cumberbatch, he is outstanding. And I'm not a big fan of him in general, but I think he plays, and he's amazing in this film. But it covers a lot of woke topics, and I think a lot of people, have steered clear of this because, they're afraid, but awesome film. I was very surprised, and I enjoyed this film, and it's pretty fucked up, so check it out. It's pretty good if you haven't.
I will have to do that. I typically try to stay clear of Benedict Cumberbatch. I think that
me too.
After watching what was the movie he was in? It was a while ago, where he played Alan Turing.
What movie was that? God.
Whatever movie that was last I saw. He's not a great actor, so I kind of stayed clear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but especially the Imitation Game.
Imitation Game, yeah.
But yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, for whatever reason, recently on like HBO and streaming services, they have, for whatever reason, decided that I must be really into war movies. So I keep getting recommended like war movies, and I've broken down recently, and I watched like in the last week, I've watched both Dunkirk in 1917.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right movie?
Yeah, 1917. Yeah, with Cumberbatch.
And Dunkirk features another English actor that I also don't think is great. And
Spider-Man?
No, and Tom Hardy.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love Tom Hardy.
I used to like Tom Hardy, and then he did more acting, and I found him just to be an annoying just grunt. He's always just like...
Well, exactly. And I kind of thought that was just him. But no, I've realized now that it's actually just his American accent is so horrible and inconsistent that it makes him sound like an idiot.
I know, right? Oh God, I don't know what really did it for me, but oh God. So, obviously I am a Christopher Nolan fan, but
Mad Max.
I feel like that was just him in Mad Max, but like when he did, I'm sorry. Like I was a fan of the Batman, the trilogy that Christopher Nolan did, but I just hated how he played Bane in that film.
Yeah.
And I thought that voice was just sickening.
That's honestly, I believe, the last superhero movie I watched was Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah,
it's a tired genre for me.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, it's really hard for me to watch a lot of films with a lot of CGI. When it's over the top, it's very difficult for me. I'm not a superhero movie fan. So obviously I saw the Batman movies. I just saw the one with Robert Pattinson. That's the most recent one, but I've never seen any Avengers movies. I've never seen an Iron Man movie. I think I may have seen part of that first Thor movie and just couldn't get through it. I honestly don't even know how Chris Hemsworth is an actor.
I once it's a long time ago, like almost a decade ago now, right?
Thor for Halloween?
No.
Okay.
So probably I was in college. I was chatting with someone on a dating app, and
nice.
We were talking about movies, and she told me that her favorite movie was Iron Man 3. Like, no cap, like Iron Man 3.
That is so bizarre.
And I legitimately like laughed out loud and like thought she was joking, gave her shit about that, and we didn't talk again after that.
Because she wasn't joking.
I actually made fun of her for saying that. Like, how can Iron Man 3? I don't even know what the movie's about. I've not seen any Iron Man movies, but like, that's nobody's favorite movie.
So
nobody's favorite.
That shouldn't be
exactly.
It shouldn't be nobody's favorite movie should be a sequel of a fucking superhero movie.
Not just a sequel. The third version of a Robert Downey Jr. movie. Like, you could tell me that it's like any Robert Downey Jr. movie, and it probably sucks. But if it's the third one, it's extra bad.
Okay,
Tropic Thunder 3.
Tropic Thunder 3. Oh my God! Can you imagine if they put that out today? They couldn't. There's no way.
I was gonna make a joke about Sherlock Holmes 3, but that's actually fucking coming out.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me? I'll tell you what. So that's another one. Like, I'm not a big Guy Ritchie fan. I think that a lot of the stuff he's put out is shit. But I pulled up Iron Man 3, and I obviously I would never watch this, but I see Gwyneth Paltrow's in it, so I will absolutely make sure that I never watch it again.
How do you feel about Jon Favreau?
I'll tell you what I feel about Jon Favreau. He was in this movie that I liked called Chef.
with Robert Downey Jr. That I believe Robert.
He played Sofia Vergara's ex-husband. Where
yeah. That's actually what I was asking.
Yeah.
I was just
The connection. No, he other than that, I mean, I know he's directed all the Iron Man stuff, whatever.
I gotta say, I think that Chef, for some reason, is like a magnet for like tattooed white guys.
It is.
They fucking love that movie.
Because, well, exactly. And I think, like, if you really think about it, it's just like when I first watched this movie, after this came out, it was like, I'll just say, you know, at the time, like the restaurant scene was booming, and it was like everybody wanted to be this fucking character, basically. Like this inspired people to do all this stuff.
And I don't want to assume here. Have you ever worked in a restaurant?
Yeah.
I assumed that a lot of the love for that movie were from people who had like never actually like experienced the restaurant scene.
All the John Leguizamo real life characters in their lives. Yeah.
Well, even the John Favreau's, right?
Right.
Like the people who have never like, no, working in a restaurant fucking sucks, right? Yeah, it's horrible hours.
Exactly.
It encourages a lot of unhealthy behavior. Like it's just like this horrible thing that is like romanticized as somehow like fun. Like no, you're about to be 45 and probably an alcoholic and addicted to
for sure.
different medication.
So, you know, my cousin, her husband, he's the GM of a pretty, he's been the GM of 3 different independent restaurants, but he recently became the GM of a franchise. And he told me he's literally now, I think 2 years sober. But had struggled with alcoholism, and had told me, like, I will literally do anything for my 15 kids or whatever they have to make sure that they never end up in this world. I don't care if it's Star Trek. He's like, the environment is so toxic. It's so detrimental to life because of the hours, the time spent, and just the behavioral stuff. And he's like, it's so just incestuous.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very bad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and, you know, like you said, horrible hours. It definitely encourages unhealthy behavior. I think even beyond, like, the drugs and alcohol of the you know, the restaurant and bar world, like, it's impossible to maintain just a normal, healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, when you're working those hours. Like, it's really hard to, like, you know, go to the gym in the middle of the day before your, you know, 4 p.m. shift or whatnot.
Exactly.
And when you're on that kind of schedule, it's hard to, you know, maintain a healthy diet, things like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was a lot of fun when I used to manage a bar, and, like, that was a lot of fun. But, like, I was 22 years old.
Exactly.
Like,
I mean, that's how you're going to live that life, you know, anyways, most likely because of
now
your school and different things, and now you're getting paid to do it. Yeah. No, it's fucking terrible. Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, even being on the distribution side and working with restaurants, even being on that side, it was fucking horrible. Like, I just didn't like the life. You know what else is a terrible fucking movie? Daredevil. The original, the 2003 starring Ben Affleck. That's a movie that was filmed in Los Angeles, even though it took place in fucking Hell's Kitchen. Okay. And I'm just going to call it a Boston crime film now. But you've got fucking Colin Farrell walking around bald as an assassin. Fucking.
Yeah. Let's wrap up for today.
Yeah.
I think we're in like an hour and 15 minutes. We well deviated from the Marxist superstructure and the maintenance of the bourgeoisie by the Scooby-Doo gang.
Yeah, we never really fully gave Michelle Williams, a deeper look, but there's still time, folks, on another episode. Yeah.
Let us know your thoughts about Karl Marx and Scooby-Doo. If you have anything else you'd like us to look at, we'll watch it and come back in a week or two and let you know what we think.
If you're a tattooed white guy, let us know if you like Chef.
Yeah, I'm not tattooed enough, so I only liked it about 15%.
Yeah.
I do like Cubanos though.
Definitely. I like Cuban people.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked. I'm gonna say one more thing here before we give our outro and give them all the socials. There was there'll be our one statement about sports today, other than talking about the remake of the Bad News Bears. There was a fake report, someone purporting to be an insider in the White Sox organization, that posted on Reddit this week, and somebody screenshotted it and posted on Twitter, and it went kind of viral. You know, a couple thousand likes and shares. Not super viral, but like in the White Sox Twitter circle, Twitter sphere, people followed it, and this purported expert that the insider in the front office claimed that there were cliques within the White Sox clubhouse, and that all of the Cuban players for the White Sox teamed together and bullied Dallas Keuchel.
I would fucking bully him too.
Yeah, right. Exactly, right. Good on them.
Exactly.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
And I like them even more for that.
Absolutely. They should
it's one of those
should award for that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, you know, when you're a kid, you're taught that bullying is bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works.
Sometimes you wish it into existence.
Sometimes people deserve it, and sometimes bullying makes them do things that they need to do.
I want to read more into that, so I will definitely check that out, because that is a fine story.
Yeah. So thanks for listening to Patreon exclusive. You know, it'll probably be up on YouTube too, just because we don't have Patreon followers.
Yeah.
But you can follow us on Twitter at @underratedpod. That's at _rated_pod. You can listen to all of our standard podcast episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever podcasts can be found. You can follow us on TikTok, which is also at @underratedpod, at _rated_pod, where our biggest following is for some reason.
Yes, TikTok.
And you can find us on YouTube at @underratedpod. Until next time. You don't want to say any closing words? No closing remarks from you, Bo?
I've said enough. Thank you, and next time.